day. Today we have Alison Maloni, and Alison is the mother of three beautiful girls, the CEO of Alison May Communications, best-selling author, and has a new book coming in the spring of 2025, is a keynote speaker, and a news anchor for Newsmax. Welcome, Alison. I think we need to add a few more things to your list of, of your resume here. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I think that your story is going to connect with so many people, obviously with women, but I think with everyone. I know that you've had to overcome a lot of obstacles in your life to get to where you are. And from an outward appearance, everything always looks so perfect for you, right?
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, you had quite a journey to get to where you are today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your journey started?
Do you want like childhood up to now, like quick version, or I think
Like when did you start thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or when did you start having these ideas?
sure. So I never wanted to be a business owner. I was never the kid who had lemonade stands. I babysat and had regular jobs, but I never thought I wanted to own my own business. And prior to that, I'd always wanted to be a news anchor. At 9 years old, I would watch the news. I met a local news anchor who essentially is my mentor still today. She had me come to the station. I got to watch the news, the 11 o'clock news being made. She gave me scripts, and I was like, oh my gosh. You would think back then that she was like this huge celebrity, right? She was a local celebrity, but to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the news. This is the coolest thing ever. And I wanted to be Katie Couric. Growing up, I wanted to be on the Today Show. That was my dream. So I would practice writing news stories in my room. I'd dress up in my mom's outfits, her blazers. I'd put makeup on, and I would pretend I was delivering the news pretty much every night. And I, went through school and then decided I'm going to major in journalism. And I got out of college and got a job as a producer, an overnight producer. Then I got my first on-air job. I was in Poughkeepsie, New York, but I was the reporter, the editor, the videographer, and the anchor. So I drive a little Ford Escort out in Poughkeepsie, get out, trying to look nice with my heels. I'd carry very heavy camera gear and a tripod. I'd go interview people. I'd come back. I'd edit it. I'd write it. I'd edit it. And then I would go on the news desk. And I was making about $17,000 a year.
Oh my gosh.
So I ended up coming back to Springfield, Mass, and got a job at a local TV station. Went to Providence, Rhode Island, got a job. And then after being in the business for, I don't know, maybe it was only like 6 years, I was burnt out. I just said, I cannot do this anymore. I was exhausted. I was working nights, holidays, weekends. So I decided to get out of the business. My news director at the time had said, please don't go. You want to go to the network, you're going to go to the network. And my mind was made up. I got out of the business. I then ended up thinking, what do I do now? So then I worked for a marketing firm. And then after having my third child, I literally woke up one day and said, I think I'm going to start my own PR company. I had no business plan. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I just started small. I had a friend help me with a website and a logo. And I got a small client, a friend of mine who was expanding his business and started small. And that was about 10 years ago, actually, no, 11 years ago. In February. And then I ended up just building the business. And now I'm anchoring the news, which I never thought I would do because I got out of the business, but I'm able to be a contributor, anchor the news, still have my business, write a second book, and not go crazy. I mean, there were times that I probably was about to go crazy, but here I am. Definitely not the path I thought I would take, but things always happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so true. I know that COVID obviously kind of propelled my entrepreneur spirit and desire, going through like transitions and being outplaced for whatever reason. It's like, do you want to have your fate in somebody else's hands all the time? Or do you want to create your own path?
Yeah, and a lot of people ended up becoming business owners and entrepreneurs during COVID because I think they realized, wait a minute, I can, make a difference. I can do different things that I really want to do. And I think we had the time to sit back and think, what do we really want to do?
Mhm.
I would say probably every other day I have thoughts because owning a business is so challenging. Anybody who says it's easy is, I don't know, maybe it's easy for them, but just all the nitty gritty things, making sure, okay, I have clients. Am I serving them? Are they happy? Am I doing enough? Okay, what if they leave? How do I get another client? My income? Oh, the invoice, it's late. All of these things that you think about. I mean, I literally just signed on a new client, but it's only for 6 months. So I'm thinking, okay, 6 months from now, what if he doesn't resign? How am I going to pay my bills because I have that income coming in? So now I have to think about
Mhm.
other income and all of that. I think I say maybe I should just go work for a company. It'd be a lot easier. I'd get a paycheck every week. I wouldn't have to worry about, all of these things. Yet being a business owner is gratifying, and I'm able to do this. I don't have to ask for permission from my boss to say, can I do this podcast, or can I go get my daughter at the train station? And all of these things, I feel like those outweigh all of the stresses of
Mhm.
owning a business.
I agree. I agree totally with that. Well, so what kind of um, PR clients or communication clients do you work with, or what does your day to day like client base or day to day like activities look like?
So it's somewhat similar every day. I have my routine in the morning where I wake up. If I'm not anchoring the news, which means I'm here at home in Massachusetts, I'll go and look at, it's called HARO, which is Help a Reporter Out. And it's a system that producers, editors, uh, journalists put out stories they're working on. And then we have an opportunity as publicists to then pitch our clients. So for example, I have an attorney, and he's a criminal attorney. So if there is a producer who's looking to do a story on, a big trial like the Menendez brothers, what's going to happen now that the DA is out of his role, I then say, I work with X, Y, and Z client. He can talk about this. So I pitch them out. That's the first thing I do. And then, just kind of follow up emails. My clients consist of, attorneys to finance, accounting, health and wellness, kind of a variety. Some PR firms are niche. I mean, in an ideal world, I think if I could have my niche, it would definitely be more health and wellness. Um,
Mhm.
because that's my passion. Organic, those like organic foods and supplements and those types of things, because that's what I'm really passionate about. So that's kind of the goal going into 2025, is to focus on trying to get more of those clients. Because when you are passionate about something, it's so easy, to really embrace it. And, you kind of feel like you're part of the company because you're like, yeah, I love what you're doing. That's great. And the passion comes through when you're pitching and you're talking to these journalists saying, okay, this is why this story is important to cover. So that's my goal going into 2025.
So with the PR firm, do you feel like you're kind of an extension department for the company that you're partnering with?
Mhm. Yes, and that's the good thing about having clients hire us, because while we are not part of their company, we do work with their marketing team if they have a marketing team, or just individually, and then we're able to dedicate, our time to them, but then thinking outside the box a little bit, because sometimes when you're in a company and you work for that company and the culture, which is great, sometimes you're kind of in a bubble where we as outsiders they can tell us, oh, we have this great story. And sometimes you have to say, I think you think it's great, but the media may not. Maybe we should look at something else. Or sometimes they'll tell us something like, oh yeah, we just got this award, but it's no big deal. And I would wait, what kind of an award? And then actually that is a big deal. And maybe we can reach out to your local media about that. So it's always good to have somebody from the outside to look in, because we always have a different take. So that's why I always think like hiring, I mean, contractors and agencies for all different types of projects is always better than having somebody in-house. And it's
Mhm.
cheaper too. For the business owner,
Yeah,
it's way cheaper.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, so how did your news anchoring, your PR firm then drive you into keynoting?
Yeah, I kind of stumbled in it. And I started doing moderating. I think my big one was when I moderated Steve Wozniak at a conference, and I actually met a client from that, which was really great. But I always was comfortable on stage, and I think that's because of my news anchoring. But moving into after I wrote my first book and started to become more vulnerable, I guess, telling my story and my challenges and interviewing women and just people in the news who have had stories, powerful stories, who have undergone extreme circumstances. I just thought maybe I can, help others by sharing my story and by maybe giving words of wisdom, things that have helped me overcome certain things, confidence, lack of confidence, feeling as if you're enough. And it's funny because we had this podcast scheduled for a couple of weeks. And last week I was wondering if I should do it because something really, really challenging happened in my life. And it's better. It's getting better now. But it was one of those things you wake up and like, oh my gosh, your life changes in a second. So I think about how I tell people, yes, you're strong and you can overcome things. And all of these things happen for a reason. And you say it. And I say it because I've lived through things and I believe it. But when it's again happening to you, you're thinking, why me? Why again? Are you kidding me? I mean, it was where I looked at my chapter in my next book coming out saying, maybe I need to rewrite this. I don't really know if this ending is accurate. Maybe I need to change some things. And so I could have easily been like, Denise, I don't really want to do this podcast because I'm not in a good place. But I guess all the stuff I've gone through in my life since I was a little girl has made me a little stronger because I was like, well, yeah, I could give up. I could cry. I could say, no, I'm not going to do this. I could do all the things I used to do, or I can be like, you know what? No, I'm going to fight for this situation that I'm in. I'm going to come through. Things are going to get better. And that's just the way it's going to be. So hopefully, maybe I'll eventually share that story, but hopefully people can just maybe learn from some of the things I've gone through and, know that like when things are good, they're good. But then no matter what, like you're going to hit really big roadblocks, no matter where you are in your life. Like, and they come at you and you're like, oh my God. Oh my God, I can't handle this. But you just keep going. What else can you do? At the end of the day.
I think that's the true like strength of how entrepreneurs operate all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about, and I think this is really powerful to share if you're comfortable talking about your childhood and your upbringing, because like I said in the beginning of this, you haven't had an easy road. And I feel like in a lot of ways I can really like relate to your story because in many ways we're very similar in that way. But if you're comfortable, why don't you share a little bit about that? And then we can talk about how that leads into the book.
Sure. Yeah. So I was an only child, and when I was 4, my mom died of lymphoma. And you think about it, if she had it now, she probably would live based on the medicine they have. But so she died at a very young age. Obviously, for me, she was only 35, and my dad basically was in Vietnam, and years later told me he had PTSD. So he really took it hard, and he essentially like didn't know how to take care of me. So he hired a nanny who it was a couple of weeks after, and I became super attached to her. Still love her, talk to her to this day. But my dad, ended up realizing he couldn't be alone. So he remarried 6 months after my mom passed. And at that point, they decided, they were going to kind of go and do their life and didn't really want me in it. So I ended up losing my nanny because he got rid of her. And then I moved in with my grandparents, which was okay, but they were older. They were still grieving the loss of my mom. They had one other daughter, my aunt, and lived with them a couple of years. Then my grandmother died. So I went to go live with my aunt and uncle. So at the age of, I think it was 8. I was 8. So all of this happening within 4 years of my life. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. I lost my nanny. Then I lost my grandmother. Lived with my aunt and uncle. and you talk about how things happen for a reason. My aunt was never able to have children. She had endometriosis and tried everything, and the doctor just said, we can't save your ovaries. Unfortunately, you're never going to be able to have children. So she always says, God works in ways, and I was able to be her daughter. And through that, I hadn't gotten therapy back then. You really didn't give kids therapy. Therapy wasn't talked about. I started, a boy told me I was fat, and it stuck with me. So I started not eating and exercising, and developed anorexia. And so my parents then realized, okay, we need to do something, and got me help, and I recovered from that. But after therapy and learning throughout things, I was so afraid that I was, going to lose my aunt and uncle. I, went through some issues then, and the eating disorder was a control thing. I couldn't control anything in my life. So this, I think, was something that I could control. Also, feeling that everybody was leaving me for a reason. God was taking people. So I must not be good enough. What am I doing that is not, I'm not, smart enough or good at all of these. I'm not enough came through my mind. So that, probably was part of the eating disorder, and all of, I ended up having a good childhood, went to college, got married, lived a normal life, always having, that body image in my mind. I still do. And there were issues that later on in my life came up. Again, not feeling good enough, got divorced, ended up getting engaged, discovered some things that ended again because I didn't think I was good enough. So even in my 40s, I was still dealing with, am I good enough? And only recently did I realize that, what, I am. And it's not because of these circumstances, but I really think therapy is so important. Even if everybody has gone through something, and really, I believe your childhood does make who you are. And I know plenty of people who've gone through worse childhoods who haven't gotten therapy and now are dealing with things in their 40s and 50s and are finally saying, okay, maybe I should get therapy and help, because there's no shame in it. And I think that it is such a powerful tool to help you heal. Yeah. And I think social media plays such a role in this too. I think when you're feeling low and then you go and you scroll and everybody looks to have the perfect life, it makes you feel like, oh gosh, look at this, and this is my life, and why can't I be like them? And I think that's why it's so important for people to be real on social media, or try to be, because life isn't perfect. And sometimes social media makes you think it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's messy.
Yeah.
Life is messy. Being a business owner is messy. All of the successes, they all come with a huge messiness to them.
Yeah, everything, parenting, just when you think you got everything right, you're like, okay, something happens, and you're like, what's going on? I thought it was good, and you get hit with something. Yeah. It's a roller coaster, and anybody that makes you think that owning a business is perfect. Unfortunately, none of us have our private yachts. We are not Gary Vee. Maybe we will be someday, but
we can aspire to be.
It's a struggle, sometimes it's a struggle to get out of bed. Sometimes it's a struggle to motivate yourself. But yeah, it's not easy.
How do you juggle all of it? Because you have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of travel. You do a lot of traveling.
I do. So I'm in New York about 3 days a week. So on Monday or Tuesday, I wake up at 1:30 in the morning, drive into New York. I stay in a hotel and then drive home. Like I came home yesterday, and it's not something I can sustain. I've been very honest with everyone. It's I lived my dream. I got to be a network news anchor, and I've gotten to interview amazing people, and I hope I can continue to do that. But living in 2 different states with 3 children, 1 in college, the other 2 still at home, it's mentally and physically exhausting. So I've cut. How have I juggled? I've cut back. So I used to be at Newsmax 4 to sometimes 5 days a week. I've cut back. Sometimes I do 2. Like in a couple of weeks, I'm just doing 2. So I've been able to just say, okay, these are the days I can work, and I'm okay with it, and they're okay with it. And and focus more on, myself, because if we don't take care of ourselves, like nothing is going to go well. And I have to remind myself that when I'm like, ooh, maybe I should say yes to this. Sometimes I say no. And I'm a big believer in saying yes to a lot of things. But if you feel like you have too much on your plate, you have to say no.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to do that. And it kind of feels good to say, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. Call me next time. So
I think that the holidays are a perfect time to practice your no's
yes.
because we
Yeah.
get so overwhelmed at the holidays.
Oh my gosh. It is. And you have all these events and all these things, and people want you to do this and a cookie swap. And I just pick and choose and realize, okay, what's important to me. And sometimes I just, I want to be on the couch on a Friday night with a glass of wine, watching Dateline. Like that's,
Yeah.
I love my friends, and we just had book club last week. That was great. But you know what, tonight, before I get my daughter at the train station, I'm just going to relax. And I love it. That's like a good Friday night to me.
I agree. Well, speaking of your book club, tell us about your new book. I'm personally super excited about this. Also, well, I have a follow-up question, but talk about your upcoming book.
Yes. So this has been in the works. I don't know, Denise, how long are we even talking about this? Like a year
A
plus?
long time.
Long time. And every time I would talk with you, you're like, how's it coming? I'm like, it's coming. It's happening soon.
I know, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it's called Voices of Courage, Women's Stories of Survival and Empowerment. It took a while to figure out that title. And it's 10 stories of women who have overcome obstacles in their life. And they have taken everything negative that could happen to them and they've turned it into a positive, and they're helping other people. For example, I have a mom who lost a son in the Sandy Hook shooting. Her son saved his classmates. He was 6 years old, Scarlett Lewis, and she's amazing. I actually interviewed her years ago for a video segment I was doing, and I couldn't get her story out of my head because as a mom, I can't imagine what she went through. And I can't imagine being able to forgive and take something like that and turn it into a positive with her Choose Love movement that she created. And it's this whole, you'll read it in the book, but it's this whole program that she's created for schools, for prisons, for corporate institutions to use, because she's like, we can have metal detectors in schools, we can have gun control, we can do everything to try and stop the guns from entering the school, but we need to get to the root of the problem. What's causing these children and adults to decide to do this? So if we can get to that and prevent them from getting to that point, then we're saving our children and we're figuring things out. So she's an example of one of the women's stories I tell. Another woman who basically saved women from being sex trafficked in Canada. So these women have all taken, and I look at my story, I'm like, my story is nothing. And that's why I kind of wanted to even take it out, because I look at these women's stories and I don't know how they were able to power through. I mean, a lot of them, they have a common theme. A lot of them believe in God and did a lot of praying, and some didn't really have that belief as powerful, early on. And because they went through this, and they've all turned to that. So that's kind of the overall theme for all of these women. But, I hope that it will help somebody, because it's all different stories and different situations. But I just, after interviewing this one of the women I'll share in the book on TV, I said, her story has to be told, of what she's gone through and what she's doing, because this is happening to thousands of other parents. So I'm excited. I think anybody who writes a book, you're so scared, thinking, what if people don't like it? What if it fails? You go through so many different thoughts and question yourself. But it's coming out January. We don't have a release date yet, but it is like 98% done. Just waiting on approval on a couple things. So yeah.
So exciting. So exciting. You're the second author that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks that has said the same exact thing about kind of the fear factor of putting it out there. Are people going to like it? Are people going to buy it? Is it going to resonate? I think that's all normal.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this book is going to be amazing, and I think that you underestimate the power of your own personal story, because somebody out it will help somebody out there.
Yeah, I
I
hope
think that,
so.
yeah.
That's the goal. If I can help one person, and the good thing in this book too, at the end of each chapter, there's resources that each woman used to help them through, or recommending whether it's podcasts, books, um, websites, certain things. So if somebody's going through a similar situation, hopefully they can read the books, listen to the podcast, go on the sites, get the help that they need. So I think that's a nice little ending
Mhm.
to their story.
That's awesome. How does an author go through book club?
So the book, it's funny because the books that my friends and I read are not the books that I write. They are like the Dateline and Lifetime movies. The book we just read was called The Boyfriend, and it was all about this murder and those types of books. So I don't know if my friends will read my book as the book club, because it's not. It's very different than what we read. It's maybe it's funny because they said they had questions. Like when we went to the book club, my friend came up with 3 questions, and she's like, "Allie, when your book comes out," she's like, "I can't wait to come up with the 3 questions." I'm like, "Oh God, I don't think my books are book club kind of book." But yeah, I said after this one I wasn't going to write anymore. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I could write another book. I don't know what it would be. It's such a overwhelming process, but I do love writing. Like I love the writing process. Although
Yeah.
I say that now because I'm not doing it. And then when I'm in it, I'm like, actually the editing process is worse. The writing, you can just get it all out. But then when you have
Yeah.
to actually edit it, and then the editor comes back with all these questions, and you're like, oh, I don't know.
Well, we've watched you through the whole wave of emotions as you've been going through the process. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Um, what what would you say, what is your favorite activity to stay fit? Because I know that's really important to you. That is part of your brand. And I know you have a huge passion for it. So what are some of the things that you do to really take care of yourself physically?
I love bar. I've always loved bar. It's just one of those, it's easy on my joints because things are cracking and creaking as I get older. And so that's something that I can do at home. My friend Ashley Broder she had an online bar class, but she recently stopped. But I have some of the videos from YouTube, so I just kind of do those over and over again. I love Pilates, and I want to do the reformer classes, but they're just so darn expensive.
Yeah.
It's like, and the closest one I think for me is West Hartford or Northampton. So I'm like, do I want to drive 45 minutes, then to do a 45-minute class? So it's like 3 hours out of your day. And I
Yeah.
want to do a workout in like 45 minutes max. So bar is definitely my favorite thing. And I'll do weightlifting. I have the Peloton app. So I'll do sometimes I'll do like 10-minute arms, 10-minute legs, 10-minute abs, and be like, all right, I'm done.
Mhm.
Like as I'm going through this whole perimenopause crap, I'm learning through all my reading that lifting heavier is much better.
Yeah.
So where bar is like light weights. So I'm trying to do more of the heavier lifting a couple days a week, and then bar a couple days a week. That's ideal. But I get after 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I want this done. Like I'm thinking about 30 other things I have to do. And walking too, but it's been getting cold out. So I'm like, ugh, I don't like that. But those are the things that I think keep me sane.
I think that people start getting overwhelmed when they think about, like, I have to go do an hour class or an hour and a half, lifting session, and then people tend to not do it. And so then they don't do anything. But
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. You can have an effective workout in 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, the more I'm reading too, they're saying like, you don't have to do this heavy cardio as we get older, which I hate cardio. I want to run. I want to love to run. I really, really do. I used to run, and then I just don't love it, but I want to because my daughter wants me to run like a half marathon with her at some point. And I'm like, oh, I do the 5Ks and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. But maybe I will at some point run, but I don't love it.
It is definitely one of those sports that I have a love-hate relationship with.
Yes, you feel so good after, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just, I feel like if I can get my endurance up, I would like it more.
It's that first mile. Everybody
Mhm.
says it. I don't even care how like advanced of a runner they are. It's
Yeah.
that first mile is just so hard.
Yeah, it is. And then like, I got to try not to pee my pants as I get older. I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, you three
Maybe
kids destroyed me.
maybe this is your next book.
How to not pee your pants when you run. There you go.
Well, I mean more about like aging and fitness.
Oh yeah.
That could be part of it though.
I could interview some doctors. Maybe they can help me.
Well, one more thing I want to ask before we wrap up. What would be a fun fact about you that most people wouldn't know about you?
Ooh. A fun fact. Oh gosh. That I know I feel like I'm so vocal on social media about a fun fact. Oh gosh, this is a hard one. Oh, I mean, it's not really a fun fact, but if I could be on an island and have like anything to eat, it would be chips and dip. Like I love French onion dip. Like the hell of a good dip is like after after I got married, you try and like eat healthy. The day after the wedding, my friend had a Memorial Day cookout and she's like, Allie, I got you French onion dip. And I was like, oh my God, I've been waiting to have this forever. It's, because I try and be healthy, but I don't know, put some chips, some basic like Ruffles or Lay's and some French onion dip in front of me. And that's all I need to make me
That's
happy.
good. You know what partners really well with that? Diet Coke.
Yes, Dr. Pepper. That's like Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper and Smart Food were my hangover go-tos in college. So yeah.
That's funny. Well, I'm going to wrap up there, but I want to be able to tell people where to go to find you. So they can go to your website at AlisonMayCommunications.com.
Yes.
You can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yes. All Alison Maloni. And then my business page on Instagram is Alison May Communications. But they're all linked. So if you go on one, you'll find the others.
Okay. And I'll add those too so people can see that. Thank you so much for taking time today. It was so nice to have you, and sharing your story, I think is going to be very powerful for people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.